Okay, okay naman po. Anyway, yun nga. So kayo yung, pangilang guest ko na po ba kayo? 5, 6 parang gano'n.
Wow.
And thank you po pala for, finally or I mean, I'm glad po finally na na-invite ko po kayo sa podcast ko po
Oy,
for
salamat.
the
Salamat.
first time in a long time and to talk with you po na ganito in this setting po. So yun nga, anyway po, the first thing that I wanna talk with you po about is yung discussion ng or discussion ng Senate dun sa this year's national budget po, which is yun nga sabi ng karamihan ng mga budget experts is the most mangled, the most corrupted budget ng 2025. And what do you think po about that assessment ng mga budget experts?
Well, mahirap, kontrahin ano, yung mga sinasabi ng mga budget experts kasi, ah, hindi naman sila basta-bastang mga pangalan lang 'no. So, alam ko naman kung sino yung tinutukoy mo, 'di ba? We have, public finance expert, economists na dalubhasa talaga. So, yung assessment na most corrupt budget yung 2025 is hard to dispute 'no. So, kahit ako hindi ako expert sa public finance, I also get the idea na corrupted talaga yon because of the many insertions na nangyari which resulted to the reduction of the budget for uh, education and health, no? Ang
Mm.
masakit nito is doon sa plenary discussion ng budget inapprove na yung budget ng DepEd at ng DOH without any changes. In other words, sa
Mm.
simula, okay sila. Walang pagbabago. And then pagdating sa BICAM, surreptitiously, biglang binawasan, no? Which is unlawful, no? Unconstitutional. So
Mm.
yun ang comment ko dyan about that view na hindi ko talaga madi-dispute. And I wouldn't, no? Kasi kahit ako mismo, I would say na yung 2025 budget, particularly yung ginawang insertions and reductions sa DepEd, sa DOH, and yun sa AFP modernization program, I believe those are unconstitutional reductions.
Mm. Yun nga po, yung sa education rin talaga, which is hindi na nga ang sa tingin ko po naman sa education is ang daming budget ng education department. Ang problema nga lang is the implementation lalo na nung short time ni VP Sara as an, educational secretary. But I also think na masyadong ano sa ano ba yun, masyado pong maraming pera sa social services, which is I don't say that's a problem, but the problem is yun nga yung sa mga politicians natin na yung namimigay ng mga ayuda and other stuff like that. And what do you think po dun sa sinabi ni Senator Lacson na dapat daw magka-bookingan daw talaga in layman's terms yung kung sino yung mga nag-i-insert, insert ng mga pang-allocation of budget sa mga government agencies and to the ano yun yung under nalimutan ko tuloy basta yung ano unprogrammed appropriation funds po. What do you think po about dun sa context na yun ng next national budget po for the next year?
Yes, 100%. Tama si Senator Lacson. Ano? Hindi dapat, when it comes to yung pag-deliberate ng 2026 budget, hindi pwede yung mga sabi-sabi o yung abstract lang na meron kasing nag-insert o pinasok dito. kailangan magpangalan ng mga pangalan, no? Names. Sino ba yung nagpasok ng insertion na yon? At kailangan panagutin siya, right? If not in the court of law, in the court of public opinion, no na tayo sa civil society putaktihin siya na ba't mo ginawa yan, anong dahilan mo, saan mo dadalhin yan. So it has two functions when it comes to naming names. Syempre nagkakaroon ng awareness, right? Public awareness kung saan napupunta yung pera at kung saan dapat hindi mapunta yung pera. But I think the second and even more important function kaya dapat mag-name names is na-educate yung voters, no? Kasi pag lumabas na sa isang malinaw na paraan kung ano yung mga hindi magandang ginagawa ng mga taong binoboto natin, ang presumption is matututo tayo na hindi na sila iboto ulit. Right?
Pero
I mean, at the very least, di ba? Kung lumabas sa mga mata natin, nakita natin, napaliwanag ng mabuti na itong mga taong ito, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, ito yung gumagawa ng kalokohan sa budget na nagdudulot ng kahirapan natin, no? Not just sa pagdating sa baha, sa kakulangan ng classroom, sa kakulangan ng health services, etc., etc. Then, magkakaroon tayo ng pagkakataon na matuto, mamulat na hindi na siguro natin dapat iboto tong mga taong to, hindi ba? So, yun ang dalawang functions, di ba? So, first is the awareness and the possible prosecution ng mga tao sa likod ng corruption. And the second function is educating the voters, no? Yung potentially mamumulat yung mga pag-iisip ng mga botante na itong mga to hindi na dapat iboto.
Which is, for me, unfortunate nga lang po, some na nakasuhan, nakulong temporarily, ay nakabalik pa rin sa legislative arena. Which is, alam naman na kung sino-sino yung mga yun. Diba po? Which is a sad thing kasi they're already supposedly behind bars, but then of course napapawalang sala sila ng sandigan bayan, unfortunately to say, but that is the truth, which is some people are forgotten about what they did ng mga ibang politiko, especially dun nga sa part ng plundering po ng national budget.
Yeah, pero hindi ka naman mali doon, ano? But of course, that is a discussion for another day, no? Kung bakit sila napapawalang sala and at kung bakit na iboboto sila ulit ng mga kababayan natin, no? That is a very complex problem. Actually, those are two complex problems, no? Pero ang punto lang natin when it comes to naming names, no? Yung gustong sabihin ni Senator Lacson is yun na nga. This is an opportunity to help our fellow Filipinos to, you know, to change the way they vote. No? To change the way or makapag-isip na kailangan talagang hindi na iboto yung mga taong ganon, yung mga dynastic politicians, ano? Kasi kung patuloy lang natin sila iboboto, then hindi magbabago yung sitwasyon natin. Mag-iiba-iba lang yung mukha nila ng mga politiko, but the same problems, the same sufferings that we enduring now, ganun pa rin, hindi magbabago.
Yeah, kumbaga po, the game, the system will always be rigged in favor of the politicals, whether dynastic sila or elite, yun, whether they're elitist or dynastic or they're both. At least that's how I see it.
I wouldn't say the game will always be rigged, no. what I'm saying is kung
Okay.
kung pare-pareho yung mga klaseng taong binoboto natin, hindi magbabago yung sitwasyon natin. Ganun lang kasimple yun. I'm not even talking about the system or the rules of the game, right? Ang pinag-uusapan ko lang yung buhay natin on a daily basis. Yung nagko-commute sa baha, magkakasakit ka, wala kang pang-ospital, kailangan ka pa
Yeah.
pumila kung saan-saan, right?
Yep.
So, kung hindi mo babaguhin yung mga binoboto mo, hindi magbabago yung buhay na gano'n. I mean, it's as basic as that.
Well, yun nga, unfortunately, well, in my years already of voting po kasi for the Senate, nung first time ko pong bumoto, isa lang ang nanalo, which is si Senator Risa. Then nitong 25, tatlo lang, which is yung mga nagbabalik, si Senators Bam, Kiko, and si Senator Ping. Yun lang yung mga napanalo ko. And sa susunod nga po, parang ang max ko na lang siguro 8 or yeah, ang maximum ko pong iboboto sa susunod 8, then minimum 6 in the next Senate election, especially if madaming mga dati na tapos gusto lang bumalik sa pagle-legislate na hindi ko naman gusto yung hindi ko gusto yung asta as a legislator. So I wanna go to the part yung about the foreign policy naman po muna saglit. Kasi sabi ni Senator Marcoleta, yun nga, parang binabalingan nila yung Vietnam on the construction of some other islands which is part of our West Philippine Sea territory. Like, why don't we call out Vietnam at the same time while in the same context as China? Which is yun yung ginagawa niya pong analogy. Na mayroon din namang yun nga, may ginagawa din nga po yung Vietnam. Yung sa China nga daw, bakit parang dun lang daw tayo focus?
Well, unang-una, itong issue na to, yung West Philippine Sea, no? Again, it's a very complex issue. It involves foreign policy, it involves national security policy. So, hindi pwede yung black and white binary approach dito eh. In the way that itong mga lawmakers natin are doing it eh. Yung parang sa mata nila, parang it's either or us versus them o zero-sum proposition. Hindi ganun eh. When it comes to Vietnam, iba ang sitwasyon niya with China. No? Kasi ang Vietnam,
Yes.
obviously, ally natin ang Vietnam eh. Part tayo ng ASEAN.
Yep.
And we already have a working understanding with Vietnam. No? Na matagal inasikaso ng DFA, matagal inasikaso ng mga bureaucrats natin, ng mga foreign workers, foreign service officials natin, no. So it's not the same comparison. It's an apples to orange comparison, no. So yun lang siguro masasabi ko sa ganong klaseng mga pananaw when it comes to West Philippine Sea, na hindi pwedeng basta-basta lang tayo magbibitaw ng mga salita, no, na hindi pinag-iisipan, no. So obvious naman na yung sitwasyon natin with Vietnam is vastly different with the situation we have with China.
Yeah.
So hindi
Agree.
pwedeng sabihin na bakit gano'n? Bakit sa China ganito tayo, sa Vietnam gano'n tayo? Obviously, iba ang trato natin sa kanila kasi iba yung sitwasyon natin. So, dapat, lalong-lalo na kung lawmaker ka, you must make an effort, no, to be nuanced in what you're saying, kasi it can jeopardize our relationship with other countries. So I think that's the lesson to be learned here. Pero pagdating sa mga mambabatas kasi natin, mahirap umasa that they will have a nuanced thinking kasi
Lalo na nga po sa Senado
syempre
As
kasi
far as I'm concerned.
ang motibasyon nila is to garner mga rage baiters yung mga yan di ba?
Kaya nga po
So,
ayun ako.
Yun.
Wala ganun po talaga. Ang sakit sa ulo, to be honest.
Ganun talaga. That's why we need to continue to talk about it, no? Buti nga pinag-uusapan natin ngayon para hindi tayo
ang dami rin po kasing nauuto din Attorney Mike ng mga tao. Yung mga ordinaryong tao na hindi naman talagang nag-aral ng mga ganitong related courses po kasi, which is of course they have the right to have a view on it, but then at the same time it's getting worrisome because countries will take advantage of a group of people nga naman that are either naive or really believe the influence that other countries bringing to our country, whether socially, economically, and most of all politically po. So ayun, yun yung maano ko po doon na masakit talaga sa ulo din tong mga senador natin na nagdudunong-dunungan sa foreign policy po as far as I'm concerned. Even though of course part nilang mag-approve and disapprove of treaties, ang problema nga lang po, may mga double standards nga sila. So which is leading me to another thing to talk about is yung sinasabi niyo dati about po sa ICC, yung kay Mayor naman si Mayor Duterte, so him being there and the trial starting, I don't know, third week po ba ng September if I'm not mistaken, yun yung sabi ng ICC judges. And what do you think po dun sa what do you think? What is your position po dun sa sa pagdala kay Mayor or former President Duterte po dun sa The Hague nitong taon?
Yeah, ang posisyon ko dito is very strictly legal, no. I do not have any political position here. So pagbabatayan ko lang yung Rome Statute number 1 and number 2 yung Cayetano versus Pangilinan, if I'm not mistaken, na Supreme Court decision, no, na ang sinasabi is magkakaroon lang ng jurisdiction ng ICC, the International Criminal Court, if the state is unable or unwilling to investigate and prosecute the suspect, no, the suspect or the person suspected of crimes against humanity. No? So ito yung tinatawag na principle of complementarity, right? So ibig sabihin kung ang bansa inaamin na niya na hindi niya kaya or ayaw niya na supilin yung pinagsususpetsahan na kriminal, then papasok na yung ICC doon. So ang position ko is hindi dapat pinapasok yung ICC kasi hindi natin kaya I mean, ako hindi ko maaamin na hindi natin kaya, right? So kasi titignan mo sino ba yung mga bansa na hindi kaya? 'Di ba? Mga African countries. Yung Afghanistan, 'di ba? Ito yung mga bansa na
mas malala pa.
Hindi democratic, yung talagang walang constitutional democracy, walang mga institutions that implement the law, walang judiciary na independent. Hindi naman tayo ganun I mean, at least in my eyes, kaya naman natin o dapat kayanin natin na i-prosecute yung sarili nating mga kriminal. Right? So that's my position there na hindi dapat, because hindi dapat nating aminin na hindi natin kaya, right? But of course, ano na yan that's water under the bridge.
Nandiyan eh.
Nandiyan na. I mean, inamin na ni Pangulong Marcos na hindi natin kaya, di ba? Sabi rin naman ni Secretary Remulla na wala tayong ebidensya eh. Di natin kaya i-prosecute ito dahil magkakagulo and all of those things. So, kaya sila pumayag na arestuhin si Pangulong Duterte at dalhin sa Hague. No? So, that's unfortunate kasi syempre, ano yan stain yan sa atin eh. Di ba? Yung pag-amin na hindi natin kaya is a stain. Stain in our rule of law, stain in our democracy. Actually, it's a stain to in the Marcos administration, no? So, akala natin kasi maraming natutuwa na hindi mo naman masisisi, right? Lalong-lalo na yung mga biktima ng EJK. Hindi mo sila masisisi at hindi dapat sila sisihin na masaya sila na nakakulong na si Pangulong Duterte sa Hague, no? So, there should be no blame. So, kaya nga ang sinasabi ko sa'yo, ang position ko dito is purely legal. And pagbabatayan mo lang yung legal aspect dito, sa palagay ko, hindi dapat napadala si Pangulong Duterte sa Hague.
Though for me naman po, in the legal perspective is the article, ano ba yun, sa Rome Statute, that was Article 57 if I'm not mistaken, where the ICC can investigate crimes against humanity in any member state that is part of or member state na signatory sa Rome Statute po, di ba? So I guess yun yung belief ko on why the ICC has the right to prosecute the former president, and for the Interpol to be given access here in the Philippines po, as far as on my belief on that discussion is concerned po.
Yeah, wala naman, hindi ka naman mali dun eh. Ang pinag-uusapan natin is dapat bang i-surrender yung jurisdiction ng Pilipinas sa isang crime that was committed in the country against Filipino citizens, right? Tama ba na i-surrender ang jurisdiction to a foreign body, to an international tribunal? Yun naman ang tanong eh. Hindi naman ang tanong naman is wala bang may jurisdiction ba yung ICC or wala? Of course meron under the Rome Statute. And even under Cayetano versus Pangilinan, right? Ang pinag-uusapan natin is tama ba na ang isang foreign tribunal like the ICC will try a Filipino citizen who committed crimes against humanity, against Filipino citizens in the Philippines. Yun na sinasabi natin na hindi tama because kaya naman natin dapat eh. I mean, hindi naman tayo, we are not a broken country, di ba? So, why should we accept surrendering our own to a foreign tribunal? That's the unlawful part there.
Which is ang tingin naman po ng fellow lawyers, especially the ones who practice trial court proceedings, is sobrang bagal nung investigation against many police officers who committed atrocious killing of suspected na mga taong nagamit ng illegal drugs, which is yun yung main argument nila. That's why ang naging last recourse nila is ICC. Pero for me, if well, since you did ask me if it was right to have our judiciary or justice system to be surrendered to an international tribunal, I probably would say it's a little bit of both. It's both yes and no. Yes, in the context of um yun nga, if hindi talaga nakikita yung usad ng justice system to particular cases, or no, not particular, especially to the case of crimes against humanity, while no at the same time, because I do agree naman po with you that we should have the perpetrator uh be filed charges with. But unfortunately, hindi nga yun ginawa ng Marcos administration because they're still chimi-chimi with their now political enemies, as far as I'm concerned. So yun. That's why I
So,
said
yeah,
it's a
yeah.
bit yes and
So
no.
siguro, if that is the case, no, then we have to admit na we have a broken legal system. We have a broken judicial system. 'Di ba? Parang ganun yung
Mm.
pag-amin, 'di ba? So if that is the case, then ito dapat yung tinutuunan natin ng pansin. Paano maayos? Paano maayos yung judicial system natin? Paano maayos yung legal system natin? So that lahat ng mga mamamayan may confidence doon sa sistema, right? Na kapag meron kang ginawang
Mm.
krimen, mapaparusahan ka agad-agad. No delays, no favoritism, di ba? Yun dapat ang tinutuunan natin ng pansin ngayon. Kasi kung inamin na natin, right? Inamin na natin, gaya ng sinabi mo, yung mga abogado na nagsasabi na hindi natin kaya dapat sa ICC siya dalhin. Alright, sige, that could be true. So right now, ang pang-attention dapat natin, o sige, paano natin aayusin yung judicial system natin, yung legal system natin, so that may confidence yung taong bayan na pag may ginawang krimen ang isang tao, ang isang Pilipino that is a crime against humanity, then we can prosecute that person. Diba? Katulad ng ginagawa ng mga ibang bansa like Singapore, like Korea, like Japan.
Ayun, South Korea, lalo na yung South Korea.
Right?
Ang bilis nilang lalo na sa mga, well, of course, sa presidents sila ata may pinakamaraming impeachment trial in the history ng countries that has presidential republic style of governments.
That's right. So that is the conversation that we should be having now. No? Unfortunately, hindi natin na ginagawa yun eh. Diba? After na inamin natin na hindi natin kaya, meaning to say yung judicial system natin is not enough. Right? Then, dapat pag-usapan natin, how can we make it enough? How can we reform our judicial system to the point na we can prosecute perpetrators of crimes against humanity in our own courts?
And at the same time, I felt na kaunti pa lang, well, in terms naman po sa mga politiko na who don't do crimes against humanity, not in the sense na they're killing, in the sense they're involved sila sa human trafficking, illegal black market, etc. Yung mga ibang politiko po, as far as I'm concerned, nakukulong naman, pero yung medyo hindi nga lang, medyo low profile lang. But then yung iba kasi naman po, masyadong ma-high profile, nakulong nga and nakalaya naman, which is sad to say. Even though, yun nga, sabi nga natin, sabi rin naman kasi natin is, you're not gonna be in jail permanently, not unless the decision ng guilty verdict to a politician na lang, politician specifically, will be final po. Pero yung sa case ni, Yun na ba 'to, parang ni former Mayor Alice Go na parang, bakit siya ang dali-daling napakulong, pero yung ibang mas high profile pa sa kanya, mas matagal na, which yun yung pinupunto ko po dun, which is bakit
Yeah,
yung mga mas matatagal na politiko nakakalaya din kalaunan, which is a
yeah,
sad thing to.
you hit the nail right on the head, no? Yan yung sinasabi nga na inequality sa judicial system natin, 'di ba? Yung inefficiency, inequality in our judicial system na we should be talking about now na paano baguhin, paano ayusin. Right? Ang dami ng mga
Mm.
pag-aaral na nagawa tungkol diyan eh. 'Di ba?
Ta's
Marami na
wala nag-came into fruition.
well, kasi hindi na pag-uusapan sa tamang forum, which is Congress, 'di ba?
Mm.
Kasi
Sila
legislative reforms ang kailangan eh. So hindi naman mangyayari 'yon kung ang Kongreso natin ay hindi kikilos.
And speaking naman po dun sa Congress, I did say to my last podcast episode is mali naman din po yung ginawa ng Congress in a way na, well, I'm talking about in the terms ng impeachment trial ni VP Sara, which is of course in-archive ng ng Senado, and sabi din na nga naman po ng Supreme Court is it's unconstitutional because yun nga, hindi finalo ng House ang rules, which is nainis din naman ako at the same time na they should have done this earlier. They should have voted upon it as early as they have uh, done it. Yeah, 'di ba? They could have voted it for it earlier. And at the same time, ang sa tingin ko naman mali po na defense ni VP Sara is, okay, hindi na table sa discussion or sa House business yung first na impeachment. Pero at the same time, hindi naman po nag-came into fruition yung tatlong naunang articles of impeachment against VP Sara. So for me, both sides have mistakes in the understanding of the now na archived na impeachment trial niya po.
Yeah, yeah.
And do you think, well, I did saw some of what did you said sa social media na na mali nga yung procedure po ng House doon. And why did they delay it? Like, obviously hindi naman trying na, they're obviously gathering political attacks on VP Sara, pero I want to know din po on your end here, personally po, yung niyo po dun sa archive ng Senate sa articles of impeachment, and yung unconstitutionality daw ng impeachment trial po.
Alam mo, EJ, for me kasi moot and academic na because of the Supreme Court decision eh. So right now, ang for me no, ang ruling dito, what should be primarily considered is the ruling of the Supreme Court that the impeachment complaint is unconstitutional. So yung pag-archive, it's a cop out eh. Kumbaga the Senate is playing it safe no na presenting it na parang wala na pero hindi pa wala completely, no?
Hindi pa.
So siguro may practical value din yon because they're still waiting for the motion for reconsideration to be resolved, di ba? Pero sa akin kasi moot and academic na because sinabi na ng Korte Suprema that it is unconstitutional yung impeachment complaint. So the only way for that to change is to reconsider. I-reconsider nila yung decision nila. If i-reconsider nila yung decision nila, is the game on ulit, di ba? But right now, para sa akin, impeachment,
wala talaga.
wala na. Kasi nga, unconstitutional
Wala
yung complaint eh. So, pwede natin siguro pagdebatihan sa classroom, which is a good thing, no? Pagdebatihan ng mga tao kung ano yung nangyari. But at the end, the Supreme Court decision is the law of the land now. So, or is part of the law of the land. So, lahat tayo dapat sumunod dun.
Though, ang ano ko lang po, disappoint is, dinagdagan pa nila supposedly ng mga requirements, which is, that hindi ko na masasabi if that's legal or illegal move by the Supreme Court nga naman po. And I do agree naman po dun sa, for now lang naman, unconstitutional nga naman daw. Because there's still, in this side of me lang naman po, hoping that, ma-reconsider din po talaga yung yung impeachment trial. So that answers it na parang hindi na talaga matutuloy, wala nang magiging impeachment trial talaga. So other question ko naman po is, will yung next na question ko is, could there be filing, not filing. Ano ba ba? Wait, iniisip po yung next question ko pa is, would there be some, or will DOJ can even, or would the DOJ probably file charges against government contractors in the private sector? I think, well, they have the prerogative naman po, diba? But will that came into fruition kaya in this administration? Because I feel that it's not gonna even happen given how weak politically the persuasion of the president has been in the first 3 years of his administration po, so to speak.
It depends eh. Kasi kung ano yung magiging crimes na madidiscover nila in the process of investigation. So, kapag ang nakita nilang crime is corruption, then that will now fall under the jurisdiction of the ombudsman. No? So, hindi na DOJ ang hahawak nun, except for yung mga minor na public employees. Pero dahil yung ombudsman meron na ring sarili niyang investigasyon, no? Nag-form na siya ng special panel niya. It looks like yung mga bureaucrats, yung mga contractors na involved, at sana pati yung mga lawmakers na involved, makakasuhan ng ombudsman. So really, ang primary agency involved dito
is the
ombudsman. Kasi we're talking about corruption eh. So if in the process of, kumbaga, yung fact-finding sa executive branch, kung meron silang mga nakitang mga potential violations na hindi naman involved sa corruption or doesn't fall under corruption, the DOJ can pursue cases, no? Kung merong ibang crimes involved na hindi sakop nung jurisdiction ng ombudsman. So, but as far as the corruption scheme is concerned, from yung participation ng mga bureaucrats sa DPWH at kung saan man, sa COA, and of course yung sa Kongreso, ang may responsibilidad dyan ay yung ombudsman, hindi yung DOJ.
Okay po. And do you think that the Senate or do you believe po ba na the Senate or House should call up si former Secretary Bonoan, and well, yung sa Senate naman si Senator Mark, if ever dapat po ba silang invite sa next committee hearing ng either houses of Congress?
I mean, pinatawag na naman nila si Secretary Bonoan, 'di ba? Si dating Secretary Bonoan. And I don't think wala namang mali na tawagin siya kasi he can offer information, no, na mahalaga, I would say, para dun sa pag-aayos ng proseso sa DPWH, pag-aayos ng proseso sa budgeting. So, pwede nilang tawagin ulit si Secretary Bonoan, right? As far as si Senator Villar, si Mark Villar is concerned, alam mo kasi merong konsepto tayo, meron tayong sinusunod na tradisyon yung
Parliamentary courtesy.
courtesy, no? So,
Yeah.
hindi talaga nagagawa yon na they will subpoena a fellow lawmaker, right? Kaya lang, pwede naman nila imbitahan. So, magkaiba kasi yun eh. Magkaiba yung isasabpina mo kasi yan, merong sense of compulsion na kapag hindi mo yan sinunod, pwede kang makulong, di ba? Yan ang nangyayari, di ba? Yung mga resource person na hindi sumusunod, inaaresto, tapos kinukulong.
Pero unfortunately, kayo na rin po nagsabi na this type of lawmakers today, especially sa Senate, is inaabuso nila yung subpoena powers nila to the people na pinapatawag nila as resource persons.
So, ang pwede nilang gawin is imbitahan si Senator Mark Villar to be a resource person. Pero hindi subpoena. In other words, kung tumanggi si Senator Villar, then okay lang. Pero who knows, baka pumayag siya. Voluntarily mag-appear siya, no, to accept the invitation, then maganda. Baka kasi gusto niyang i-clear yung name niya eh. So, pwede siyang imbitahan
kung gugustuhin.
Kung gugustuhin niya, right? But definitely hindi siya maaaring isubpoena. Pwede siyang imbitahan, which he can freely refuse or he can voluntarily accept kung gusto niya, but to subpoena him, I think, would be irregular.
Well, I don't. Hindi ko naman po inaano na ipapasubpoena siya. I just asked naman na parang invite lang sa committee hearings. Anyway, yun lang naman na po. Wala naman na po akong ibang question na po for now. I guess na medyo naubusan din ako ng things po to talk about. Siguro next time, I'll try to think about some things po to talk about with you po, Attorney Mike. And thank you again po for inviting thank you po for accepting my invitation po dito sa podcast ko po. And hopefully there could be next time ulit po if available po ulit kayo.
Sige, maraming salamat din at all the best sa'yo.
Thank you po, Attorney Mike. Yeah. So, yan. Thank you kay Attorney Mike Henry Cinco, and finally I had him as a guest dito sa podcast. Oh, and I forgot to say na he's part of he's a senior fellow sa Ateneo School of Government. Anyway, yun lang muna for this morning's discussion, and I'll try to think about something. I'll try to think about other topics. Medyo na-stutter na naman ulit ako. I guess. Goosebumps. But ayun na. Anyway, yun lang muna yan for now. And thank you. Well, advance thank you na lang din sa mama nanonood na to. That is all.